So, the material we're going to see today is these stone tiles. Okay, of course, there's a lot of damage, there's a lot of wear, and all nice things like that. And we can control how much of the tiles and how much of of the ground will always show. Let's see some renders. I do the renders because the renders are on iRay, and of course I'm also recording, so we can really turn iRay on and having all this nice resolution. Okay, you can see, and this is the color map. That's what I mean. Okay, more tiles, more stone, less ground, and the way we have it right now. Again, before I forget, you can download every substance. If you go to Patreon and if you go to my posts, okay, you can download them from here, and some of them are already in Substance Share, so check my profile there. So let's come back to Substance Designer. Okay, we have this. Let me fix a little bit my screen. Even though I'm on the latest update, I still have that bug, but anyway, and now it doesn't even show, so that's annoying. So let me pause and fix it. So back again, I'm gonna try and limit full screening this since it has the problem, and we'll see what we're going to do. Okay, this is what we're going to work with, and of course let's go to the beginning. What we're going to start, we have a tile generator. We want to use a shape brick. Okay, just a brick. We smooth out the edges, and since we have we want to make our bricks go up and down so they do not have the same elevation. So we're going to take a gradient linear one, run it through a histogram range, and we can control the position and pretty much the gradation, although it's very slightly at this point, but if you want more or if you want less, you can control it with this. Okay, I liked it the previous way, so I'm going to control the back. Of course, we're blending them together with multiply, and here on the tile generator we're going to do this. Okay, and 5 by 5, although you can go pretty much whatever you like over here. Scale, raise it a little bit over 1, and the other stuff you can do is variation and contrast, so it gets starts to differentiate, not entirely differentiates, between the luminance and all that. Of course, pattern type to image input. You can add gradation from over here, and of course brick, but with this way you have a bit more control, so I prefer it this way. And not to mention that you can of course turn quick axe flip, so it starts flipping them in more random rotation, and of course you also have fixed random rotation. Just a little bit of free rotation random, so that it doesn't look that that mechanical placed. Okay, blending mode to max, and the other stuff is pretty much the same. And I've also reversed the rendering order because I was doing some other stuff, but I don't think there's going to be too much of a change. Okay, you can see that it doesn't really, well, it looks different, but it's not really that much of a change, so let's keep it this way. Okay, so we have our basic bricks where we're going to work with, and let's make it something more interesting. So the first thing I'm going to do is add more cracks, and this time I'm going to use a cells 4 node, which is basically a Voronoi pattern, and I'm going to use histogram scan, and I'm going to isolate a lot of this stuff. And the reason why I want a Voronoi pattern over here instead of our usual way we're doing cracks, which we also do later on, is that we can use these different values, okay, and we're going to have cracks like this. So this will be lower and this will be higher, and we can do, you know, it's more interesting to look at in the end. So after that, slope blur grayscale, pale noise zoom, of course, for the slope map. Okay, intensity, you can see it's way intense. And then I'm going to warp it again with pale noise 1, just to get a little bit more difference. And then I'm going to use a directional warp from a tile generator that has basically this. You can see that pretty much everything is left the same except by variation contrast. Okay, square. We do not have any rotation, we do not have any random positioning or that. Otherwise you might get, you know, some lines and it will not look nice the final picture. Okay, we have basically, we want this and we use it into a directional warp a few times. Intensity to something way high, it doesn't matter, and you can see that it breaks apart the pattern, so there's no cracks that look similar or go from one stone to the other. And of course we're not going to apply this directly on top of it just like that. We're going to also you know, fix it a little bit. So we have this. We're going to blend it with our first tiles. We're going to take our cracks, our tiles, and add them on top of our tiles, and we're going to blend them with minimum darken. And I'm also going to create another tile generator exactly like this one, but on this time, you know, I'm going to differentiate it a little bit more. Okay, just so that it's not like similar like this. You can use the same and you probably won't even notice. And with min darken you can see that where we are getting and where we are basically adding all our cracks and stuff like that. Okay, of course this, we have a lot of areas that are pretty flat at this point, and this is probably an error, although I kinda like it how it looks on the stone. So, you know, I kept it, but you might not want to keep it. Although in the final one, I believe it doesn't look that bad. Okay, and to fix, you know, all the, you know, very smooth areas, we're going to do again one pass of chipping large. So basically just another slope blur grayscale with another pale noise. Most of these have a random seed, you know, and I just use a different random seed every time, and we start destroying basically our tiles. And then I'm going to add another one of these, another slope blur grayscale from the final one. This is going to be very, very subtle, and we're going to use a clouds 3. You can see it's 0.1, but if we zoom in you can see the difference it does on the edges. Okay, this is smooth, this starts to look like an actual weird rock. And we're going to blend them together again with min darken. We're going to add spots because, you know, rocks have a lot of spots. There's nothing sophisticated on top of it, we're just making damage. Okay, there too, and subtract. I just went with a very subtle value. Although it's very subtle, you can see that on the final one it's not entirely that subtle, so it's going so. Then I'm going to add some smaller cracks, and this is the way we're usually doing it in the past. Cells 3, invert grayscale, we're warping it with pale noise 2. Okay, intensity 5. I'm going to use a directional warp, and the directional warp I'm going to use is this one, so you pretty much not really need it that much, I guess. It's going to break the pattern, but it doesn't show because now I realize that this is it only has 3 spots that have the same color, and we're blending them with a black color where these 3 spots are. So you can actually remove this one, since as I said. Okay, we pretty much isolated 3 rocks. We're going to use slow blur grayscale, although if you are on a high resolution you're going to lose everything. And let's add the levels node over here, and let's see if we can fix this. That's way too much, obviously, although let's see what it does on the actual substance. Okay, it's pretty much this, and this is not really that bad, but it might be a little bit too intense. Let's lower this from over here. Yeah, something like this. It makes it makes for the stones to be even more cracked, like in also this area. Yeah, I think I like it way more like this. Okay, so we have our cracks again. Slow blur grayscale level node to fix that, even though it doesn't look that nice in this one. In this one it's just fine. And then we have basically our tiles, and they are ready to be added with the ground. This level node doesn't do anything except that it just crunches a little bit the value so that we can control the height a little bit more than we can do over here. And what I'm doing for the ground, I just take fractals on base, I'm blending it with subtract over a Perl noise zoom, so we also get a few elevation. Yeah, because this is just a little bit too dark, I want to adjust the values a little bit also. You can see that I'm raising the black. Okay, so we get something more higher value, and I'm subtract above it the fractals on base, and we pretty much have our ground. Of course our ground will be too flat if we only had this, so I'm going to add with splatter circular. I'm going to create from a paraboloid pattern. Okay, just reduce random the radius and all that, adjust them to get until you get something like looking like this. Okay, we just need something random, and in our case they look like pebbles, so we can add a slow blur grayscale on top of that. Can reuse the same Perl noise zoom, and we can blend them with max lighten so that it looks like the pebbles sit on the actual ground. The pebbles we're talking about are these two. Okay, these are some different other rocks we're going to add in a little bit. Okay, we have our ground, and we're going to blend them with height blend node with what we have on our tiles, and we get the ground over here, and we get, based on the elevation of the rocks, we separate basically the tiles from the ground. Now we can create a ground mask, and the way I did it is simply take it from a height blend, what we have over here, and take it from this and basically subtract one image from the other. Now this is not entirely that accurate, but because there is ground, it's ground, and because it is it's not supposed to be clean, it's not supposed to be the stones aren't necessarily that clear, they have ground on them. Okay, they're dirty stones and all that, so that's about how much we're going to care about this, because it actually works with the overall design okay, like stuff like this, it makes it for them to blend even nicer. So we're going to have a ground mask, we're going to blend it a little bit, and to get rid of these artifacts we're going to add a blur high quality grayscale. If you leave these pixels you might get artifacts on your overall design, on the final one, especially if you have either, you know, on the height map, it's going to bring some errors. It's going to make some pixels pop out, and that is pretty ugly. Okay, so this is basically our ground mask. Now we're going to add the other broken rocks we have over here, you know, the bigger ones that are not actually pebbles. And to do that we're going to create again with a splatter circular, this time is bricks, you know, get a random pattern like this. It doesn't really matter, I didn't have anything in mind when messing with these values. I'm going to do a slow blur grayscale on top of it with a pale noise zoom. This one is very smaller since the pebbles, the actual pebbles, are even smaller. And we're going to blend it with again a black color based on the ground mask. So we're only going to place these rocks where there is primarily where there is ground, but you can see that there is some that get away with it and went over a few rocks like this over here, but it doesn't matter. I think it just helps with the overall design in the end. Okay, before we add it though, we're going to just smooth them out a little bit with a blur node, and then we're going to add them with max lighten on top of what we have from our rock and ground mix, and we get this design. The level node, I think this is just serves as a null node. Again, I just add this, so if I change anything from down here and if I want to add more stuff, you know, I do not have to worry about connecting everything on the correct one. So you can remove this one if you do not want. And we're pretty much ready to we have our height ready, and we can also have our normal is pretty much ready. You can see in tested 20, and we just output it. Notice that usually I will add a microsurface pass, but in this time I think it just works exactly as I want it, even though we didn't necessarily work that much with a microsurface, but I think overall it just came just fine. If you do not like the intensity some of this stuff have, okay, you can just add them, you can remove a few of this and add them after you've added the bigger shapes of your normal map. Okay, and just add them later. Okay, from over there again, curvature, ambient occlusion, and we export the ambient occlusion, although I might just add a levels node over here and make it a little bit more smoother, something smaller, because there is a lot of dirt and there is already darker colors on top of it, so it might just look like artifact in the end instead of ambient occlusion. Although, yeah, as I said in a previous video, you don't really want ambient occlusion, but it helps with a lot of the designs to really pop out. Now, okay, we have curvature and AO. Let's see the roughness, since it's pretty much a little bit different than everything else. Of course, the metallic is just a black color, so for the roughness I just playing over here with values until I get something interesting. So I took clouds 2, I took a directional warp again for the clouds 3, not clouds 2, and you can see that I took the value we have, or a curvature map, and run it through a directional warp to see what I can get. we're starting to get something interesting. And then I'm going to blend it. Again, the curvature with subtract. Again, all this are random stuff. Okay, you might want to add something else. You might want to do it like this. It's all up to you. I'm going to blend it with max lighten again from the curvature map, because why not? And then I'm going to adjust the levels a little bit. Then I'm going to take a Clouds 2, run it again through a directional warp, and I'm going to blend them with max lighten again. And finally I'm going to add the final pass, which is the dirt, and I'm going to add it with max lighten. So whenever there is dirt, you know, the values are higher, so that means it's less reflective where there is dirt. And I'm going to output it on the roughness. Okay, all this are random. If you want to do something else with this, then feel free to do so. The dirt map is this, and we're going to see it. Okay, these are the values, nothing too specific, just adjust them randomly. So we're pretty much over here. We've seen our height, normal, and of course we are ready to see to create our colors. For, let's say, the ground color, since it's easier and simpler. So what I did is created two colors, two gradient maps. Okay, all this is just a random image, and drag it from one way to the other. If you're following along, then you can simply drag over here your big gradient, and you will get something similar to this gradient map. Probably, I haven't tested it, but I think you can get it like that. Okay, and I created another color again with this, nothing too sophisticated, just drag along until you find a gradient map that it works. So we have two colors, and we're going to blend them together with multiply with this, so that it breaks a little bit the flatness of the previous one. So we get something that looks like this, you know, dirty spots upon a ground. And the color is pretty much ready for the ground. For the rock color, you can see I started with the Clouds 3 again. I ran it through a gradient map, and I've just added another color. Okay, just pick a gradient over a stone, something like that. And we have levels, sharpen with a directional warp. I'm going to again use this tile generator over here, and I'm breaking apart this pattern, and I'm going to add it. As you can see, I have another gradient map over here, which in this case what I did is we have our height, where we have everything, okay, height, normal and all that, and I took a fractals on base and overlaid on top of my rocks, and that's what I mean. I bypassed the microsurface pretty much, and then added a gradient map. Without the fractals on base, this will look way more flatter. So let's see it. Okay, with just the overlay. Okay, you can see this. It doesn't exactly look like rock. Although the final one, yeah, you can't even tell. Or, well, you can tell. There's these striations which I don't particularly like. So I just simply added an overlay on top of it, and it breaks apart the patterns, and it looks more organic in the end. Okay, a gradient map again. You can see all these are picked from photos, as I said. The way we're going to blend them with this is I'm going to get again the Clouds 3 levels, going to sharpen them. If this is too much, of course, you can change it. I'm going to break apart the pattern with the directional warp, and then I'm going to use that as a mask, and we blend it, this color with this color, with just copy in this case. Now we're going to blend them with our ground, and we're going to use, of course, our ground mask we have over here after we have blurred it. And that sounded funny. Okay, just copy, and then we can add a little bit more color on top of it. And in this case I'm going to use grounds map, the second grounds map 002, and I'm going to run it through a gradient map. Again, colors from photograph or stones or stuff like that. I'm going to warp it around with Perl Noise 2. I'm going to use a directional warp so it breaks apart again the pattern, and again we're going to go back into this tile generator, or you can create a new tile generator. It doesn't matter, since we just care about breaking apart the pattern. And at this point, and you can see that there is some duplicates. If it shows in the final picture, then simply change the intensity. Okay, we've blended it together with what we have from raw ground over here, overlay, and then we're going to add some more information. In this case will be white spots. Now in this particular case it makes sense to have the white spots also on the ground, so you can see that I didn't necessarily care about breaking it apart or making it more smoother, or containing it a bit. So I just took that one, levels, directional. Yeah, I have directional warp, but intensity is at 0, so it's not really needed. You can add something else. You can see that it changes a little bit the way it's applied. It's entirely up to you. I think without anyone it just still looks nice, or they are just bigger in this case. Okay, gradient map. I think the white, the grayscale value just worked just fine for this case, because we just wanted the white spots on a rock that you usually see. Okay, and then I'm going to add I'm going to take the curvature enable occlusion and have from an edge damages. I'm going to create a mask, and we're pretty much going to highlight a few of the edges. And to highlight the color, the color for the highlights is basically the one we have from over here, from this one basically, from our grounds map, with saturation to 0 and pretty much a little bit to the lightness, and that is our edge highlights. Now you can see that it still doesn't look like it's all blended together, because we've lost a lot of shape. So the magic node is basically the dirt that we're going to add on top of it. The gradient map is just dirt. You can see that there is really no sophistication upon this. I just took clouds 3, and the magic node that is going to fix our image and going to create all our shapes is the dirt node. Okay, whenever you have something that doesn't work, just add dirt on top of it and call it weather or vintage or whatever. Okay, and you can see that from here to here is a whole staircase of a change, and we have our final one, and we output it to the base color. So yeah, that's pretty much it, and I'm going to regret this for sure. Yep, it doesn't work again. Oh well. Okay, so we've seen the final one. Try, you can render it again on array. Okay, I had to restart. So this is the final one. We've already seen it, and if you want to render it with iRay, you can. What I did is basically, if I switch to iRay, materials, okay, just basically make sure you raise the height, because the material resets. Okay, and you can get something looking like this. So I'm going to stop that. That's about it. Okay, a nice material. I pretty much like this. Okay, which you can use in a game engine and other stuff. So you know what to do. Like, subscribe, go check the ArtStation post. You know, give a like there, give a view, follow me, and if you like also, you can support me on Patreon so we can keep making all these nice materials weekly. So I'll see you next time.